Hey everyone, my name is Austin. I'm a senior product designer here at GitLab. I work in the compliance space, and I'll be doing a asynchronous presentation on being an active steward of the GitLab community. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, as well as a key responsibility of working here at GitLab. I'll share just a brief anecdote of something I heard from one of my friends when I first joined GitLab. Somebody asked, "What is GitLab?" And my friend, before I could even respond, my friend stepped in and was like, "GitLab is this amazing platform that helps developers and teams build code, and they have an incredible community of open source contributors that really make it better." And that was one thing that I was really excited to join GitLab and be a part of. So I decided to take a little slot and talk about what that's been like for me as a product designer, and maybe share some ideas that might inspire you to do the same. So with that, we'll jump into the presentation. All right, so why be involved? Well, it technically is a job responsibility for certain designers. I would even say anybody that's a designer at GitLab can take upon this responsibility on their shoulders. So whether that's by writing blogs, giving talks like this one, sharing videos unfiltered like this one would be, or responding to social media, which I'm going to talk about where I like to join in. But ultimately, this rolls up to our mission as a company in which everyone can contribute. And so bringing people into that experience can only help better foster that in the future. So where are some places that you can interact with the wider community? There are lots. And I'm going to go through some, but for me specifically, I'm going to be covering GitLab on Reddit today, because that's a place that I am frequently on just myself in terms of social media, maybe too much time. But it's been fun to be able to contribute on that platform as well. But as somebody that's not a moderator, but just a passionate enthusiast amongst the rest of the people that are in that community. So you can kind of see over here, the GitLab subreddit has about 10,000 members. So that's a lot of eyeballs seeing these posts and these comments and threads. And so I've found a lot of success, honestly, in being able to engage with people there. So let's talk about it. How do I do it? What's my method? What am I doing? Why am I trying to do it? First of all, I created a separate profile for my GitLab comments and threads. I have a personal account that I keep separate. So this one is more when I see something that I want to comment on, I log into my GitLab specific Reddit account and share some thoughts or feedback. By trade, I would say I'm a lurker on Reddit. I'm not someone that's like a huge content generator, but I really love engaging with other posts that are on the platform. So some things that I'm looking for. One example would be features I've worked on. I think when I first started, this was a feature that I had recently been introduced to. So we had created this feature in which it delays the deletion of a project to a specific amount of days. In this case, it defaults to 7. And this user was like, "Hey, how do I get past this wall? Like, I can't do anything here," and expressing frustration. And I usually just open up by saying, "Hey, who am I? I'm a designer at GitLab. I'm looking for feedback on this. I actually helped with this thing." And what I think is really cool about this is it gives me an opportunity to, one, reference back our handbook and like the things that are important about it. So I reference that everyone can contribute, and just share a little about what we're trying to do. So with this particular user, I shared the epic that we're working on just to help show like what we're trying to build, and perhaps that helps solve some problems. And they had some feedback and some opinions on it, but that's all good. I'm not here to necessarily make everybody happy. I'm just here to represent GitLab well. So another one, I also look for points of confusion. So I run into stuff all the time that I'm like, "Hey, I don't know how to do this thing." And then I go look on Reddit or Stack Overflow or whatever it might be to get some more feedback from the community and see if there's someone else that's run into this before. It's funny, like when you start looking for things in the wider community, you'll start seeing patterns of stuff that you're working on or you see other people working on come up as topics, and then you can be the connector. So a great example of this was a user posted they were frustrated with the web terminal. They were getting this connection failure and had no idea what to do. So someone did point them and say, "Hey, do you set up a runner?" Which is technically the correct answer, but I explicitly knew this pain point because I was actually working on a merge request to update the button in this web IDE terminal. So I was able to redirect this user back to a YouTube video on Unfiltered that walks you through the process and the key steps. The first thing was like you got to have runners, and then you also need to have Minikube set up if you want to kind of get that running locally. And I expressed some empathy there because I was also having trouble. I wanted them to feel that they were not alone in this journey. And to me, like just getting a thanks is great. I love to know that people are welcoming our ideas and our thoughts and our experiences. So while I'm looking for things that I've worked on, or maybe even other areas that other of my peers are working on, I have several threads in which I have discovered things that have come up in other areas of the product that I've known that designer or that organization was responsible for, and just redirected the user so that they would feel heard. But that's what I'm basically trying to do. I want users in the wider community to feel heard when they work to get feedback from GitLab in some form or fashion. So one way that I try and represent our values well is by taking action. So in this example, the user was really confused about the number of things that they would get out of the free plan in GitLab. We don't necessarily make money off that per se, but what's important to know is like I wanted to show them that we take a bias for action. So I opened up a merge request just to update this. And when I went and looked at the page myself, it was kind of confusing when you were reading like the verbiage. So just tried to break it down a little more simpler. And I got feedback from the different people that would know whether or not that was true. And getting those changes merged in helped clarify that for them and probably other people as well. Because it's not just that user that posted the question. There are probably numerous lurkers like myself that are looking for those answers as well. And if they can't find them, I don't want them getting stuck. I also think it's really fun to try and be an open source advocate. There are a few ways that I've engaged loosely on this, but one that maybe got me the most upvotes or whatever it might be was somebody was asking in r/user experience, so not the GitLab subreddit, but the user experience subreddit, how do I contribute to open source projects as a UI UX designer? Well, great news. GitLab can help you do that. Just sharing references to our guidelines of how we work, the issues that we look for community contributions, how you contribute to UX design specifically at GitLab, and then I shared a blog too on our open source like styles. I think this was maybe like the second most upvoted thing in this thread. And so anybody that's going to come look at this will then see GitLab referenced as an opportunity to do that. And you never know. It might just mean one person finds their way into GitLab and becomes a user. I also think it's really great to always tie things back to the handbook. So in this example, like we were just there was an announcement for the hackathon that was coming up, and someone decided to ask like, yeah, but what happens if like you make a merge request? Is it going to be put behind the $99 like user license? This was a great chance to clarify like, what is our stewardship policy? And I outlined just those details. And yeah, didn't get a lot of upvotes, but in case someone came through, I wanted them to know that if they decide to make a contribution to GitLab, they get to determine what tier it's going to be in, and probably they'll pick free, and that's okay, because we just want people to contribute to the product in general, but we also documented how that works. So while there are maybe some naysayers in the world, it's a chance to kind of add a little rebuttal if you want to. And then I'll also add that you never know what can happen. So I'll open up this and share. I had posted, we had this long thread on Reddit about this feature that my team was working on. And somebody decided to say, hey, I found my way to this issue because of this comment in the thread. So I'll open up that Reddit post on the side there. But I think this is what's really cool. It initiated somebody else that was lurking in Reddit to come to GitLab and say, hey, I have some feedback I'd like to share here. And it may just be one person, and it may just be one piece of feedback, but those things over time mean a lot, and that's what makes our app and our company uniquely special. So even as I'm having all of these discussions here, you just never know when someone's going to pop on over and share more perspective. And that's what I think is really cool about being a good steward of the wider community and engaging with people, even if it comes outside of GitLab, outside of issues and merge requests. You just never know what that outcome might look like. Now, the internet can be a toxic place at times. That's okay. My feedback in that area is just don't engage with the toxicity or the frustration. Just go back to making people feel heard and sharing a response that you think would be meaningful to them. I think I have a link on this. Uh, hmm, there it is. I don't know why it didn't show up the first time. We'll just kind of pass through this and talk about like what I chose to address and not, because I think this is a good example. Um, so this user was sharing frustration, like they were seeing a lot of banners coming through in GitLab, specifically for one that was related to encouragement to use the function to create a merge request once you've pushed to a branch. And I understand they had some opinions about like why they should be shown something or not. And my choice was simply to take in that feedback. And the one thing that I knew was you could manipulate the system enough. It sounded like they didn't care about using merge requests specifically. You could disable it. You could still use your repository, but if you disable the merge request feature, you won't ever see these alerts anymore. So technically, you could work around it. And they decided to reply and add more thoughts, and all that's okay. And I chose to address just a couple things there for them. So I wanted to acknowledge the fact of like what would happen if you disabled the setting, and also just wanted to share some insights on like how challenging it can be sometimes to implement things. I'm not trying to win any arguments here. I'm just trying to share some background on like how we work as a team, just to better advocate for the way that GitLab collaborates with the community. Um, and that's all I was really trying to do. They shared more feedback, and like that's totally fine. And you'll see other people chime in too, and um, just wanted them to know like we take action. So I linked the post of feedback into a corresponding epic. This can always give a place for users to start engaging. And honestly, it was part of an inspiration for the epic that I'm working on around alerts and banners. It helped me better empathize with things that users might be recognizing in our platform as a way to improve things. And so I think what's useful in addition to all those factors, is you get to know where the pain points are. And that brings a good level of empathy back to me when I am kind of stuck in my own rhythm, my own areas of the product, and it gets me exposed to other things. It's pointing me in the direction of runners. It's pointing me in directions of packages. And I learned more about project management and like how users are trying to find things and where they struggle in docs. I learn a lot about little problems, and being able to take action on those has been really fun. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. I hope that this sheds some light on how I approach being a better contributor to our wider community, and just trying to help steward an environment that encourages everyone to contribute. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you. I really do appreciate it.